All right, today we're jumping into a huge turning point in modern Vietnamese history. The moment a brand new political party came out of total chaos with a radical new plan. We're going to break down how the Communist Party of Vietnam was born and what its very first political blueprint actually laid out.
So, to really get why this was such a big deal, we have to go back to the early 20th century and ask a pretty basic question. Where exactly was the Vietnamese Revolution at that point? I mean, what was its status?
And wow, the answer is summed up in this incredibly powerful phrase from back then, as dark as if there were no way out. This wasn't just, political frustration. This was a deep national crisis. It felt like a completely hopeless search for a path to save the nation from colonial rule.
Okay, so how did they find a way out of all that darkness? Well, we're going to walk through it in 5 key parts. First, we'll dig into that crisis of direction. Then, we'll see how a key figure, Nguyen Ai Quoc, laid a new foundation, which led to this critical unification conference. From there, we'll analyze the party's first political platform and really understand why this whole thing became such a massive turning point. All right, so let's dive right in with that crisis of direction. What were the old ways people were trying, and why did they all seem to fail so badly? And you can see the problem crystal clear right here. On one hand, you had movements like Gun Vuong trying to bring back the old feudal system. On the other hand, you had newer, bourgeois democratic movements, with leaders like Phan Bui Cho looking to more modern ideas. But despite their totally different approaches, they all ended up in the same place: failure. And this constant string of defeats is what created that profound crisis we were talking about. So, all those failures created this massive leadership vacuum, which really set the stage for something new. And that brings us to our second section, the absolutely pivotal role of Nguyen Ai Quoc in laying the groundwork, ideologically and organizationally, for a totally new kind of revolution. Now, the party didn't just pop up out of nowhere. There was actually a kind of formula to it. It was really a fusion of 3 critical elements. You had the ideology of Marxism-Leninism, the growing power of the workers' movement, and the very deep-rooted patriotic movements already in Vietnam. It's the combination of these 3 that gave birth to the party. And this preparation, it was super methodical, unfolding over years. Between 1921 and 1927, Nguyen Ai Quoc focused on the ideological heavy lifting, spreading these new ideas. Then, in 1925, he switched to the organizational side, creating the Vietnamese Revolutionary Youth League. And this was so effective that by 1929, it actually spawned 3 separate communist organizations, which, created a brand new problem. They urgently needed to unite. So by the end of 1929, you've got this momentum, but it's also a huge problem. You have 3 separate competing communist groups. That's a dangerous situation that could have totally weakened the whole struggle through division and infighting. And that exact problem, that urgent need for unity, leads us straight to our third section, the historic unification conference. This is the moment where 3 rival groups were forged into a single party. Okay, so picture this. It's early 1930, they're in Hong Kong, and Nguyen Ai Quoc himself is presiding over the meeting. The main mission? To tackle the disunity head-on. And the result was incredibly decisive. The groups agreed to put their differences aside and merge into one single organization, the Communist Party of Vietnam. And boom, just like that, from 3 competing factions, one unified political vanguard emerged. A single cohesive force that was now ready to lead the entire national revolutionary movement. Okay, so the party is now one unified group. Awesome. But what was their actual plan? What were they going to do? This brings us to our 4th section, their first political platform, the document that would act as a compass for everything that came next. Let's break down the core of this thing. It basically had 5 key parts. The big picture strategy was a 2-stage revolution. First, get rid of colonial and feudal rule, then move towards a communist society. The main tasks were clear: fight imperialism and feudalism. The main revolutionary force? Workers and peasants, allied with other classes. Leadership was to come from the working class through the party. And finally, they saw their struggle as part of a much bigger global revolution.
But here's the thing, and this is maybe the most brilliant part of it all. This platform wasn't just a textbook copy of some foreign theory. Its genius was how it creatively adapted Marxism-Leninism to fit the very specific, unique reality of Vietnam at that time.
So we've seen how it happened, but why do we still talk about it? Why was this one event such a massive deal in the grand scheme of things? Let's get into that in our final section, the Great Turning Point.
I mean, the party's founding was a truly game-changing moment. It finally ended that long, dark period of crisis over what path to take. It showed that the Vietnamese working class was mature enough to lead. And maybe most importantly, this was the decisive preparation that paved the way for all the victories that came later, from the August Revolution to everything that followed.
And if you're going to take away one single core idea from all this, it's this concept they call the consistent red thread, the inseparable link between national independence and socialism. This idea that you fight for independence as the immediate goal on the path towards socialism, that became the absolute bedrock, the guiding principle for the entire Vietnamese revolution. And that really leaves us with a big question to chew on, right? Does that foundational principle, that red thread forged almost a century ago, still define the path forward for Vietnam today? Something to think about. Thanks for joining this explainer.